All right. Well, welcome everyone to the Global Breakout Podcast, episode 1. Whew, very exciting. This is something that I've been wanting to kind of pick up in Global Breakout for a while, and I'm glad that we're doing this. So I'm Barendipitous, if you didn't know, and with me, you can see over here, is Supreme, who was elected to just show his epic profile picture, which I believe that's from Record of Ragnarok, was it?
It is indeed from Record of Ragnarok. He's the Buddha himself.
The Buddha, right. I'm aware of the premise of Record of Ragnarok, which it sounds like a really cool premise. So, cool. So yeah, basically, nothing too structured here with the Global Breakout Podcast. We're just kind of gonna hang out and talk about things that we like and just have fun, and hopefully you guys watching and listening also have fun as well. We have some talking points, some things that we would like to talk about, but who knows what will happen for the next little while here. The people who are in the podcast may change a bit, like someone in the Global Breakout staff will always host, like myself or Supreme or someone will always host, but there may be other people like in GB or out of GB, whatever. But today, it's just the two of us. How are you doing today, Supreme?
I'm doing pretty good. Today has been pretty kind to me. I have no reasons to complain. How about yourself?
Yeah, good. Today's been pretty good to me as well. I was, with my full-time job, basically I work, the full, normal 9 to 5, 40 hours a week kind of thing. And I was able to clock out early today, so I had some free time to mess around as the April Fool's version of myself. We can talk about that a little bit more if we want to later on. But we wanted to talk about some new developments in some of our favorite games, especially Brawlhalla. So we first wanted to talk about the kinds of things we're seeing in the new Brawlhalla patch. So we're recording this on March 31st. I don't remember how close to recording day we'll be able to have this video out, but it's March 31st, 2023 today, right now, the evening of that day. And just a few days ago was the patch 7.06, I believe, where the new legend Thea was released.
Yes, we are currently 2 days into Thea's release.
Yep.
And currently witnessing a smorgasbord of opinions for the new legend.
There's always a smorgasbord of opinions on Brawlhalla Twitter, and I don't follow Brawlhalla Reddit or anything like that, but Twitter is where most of the action ends up happening. And yeah. I feel like there's been more opinions than normal. Does that feel that way to you?
To me, yes. I feel like there's been a lot more. There's been a lot more opinions before the legend was even released that I've seen for most other legends. Just the fact that she has lance and boots and the amount of speed that they gave her. I've seen so many more opinions voiced before they even actually got to see her in action, and I think everyone was scared, and I also think everyone was rightfully scared.
Rightfully scared. Yeah, there's always talk about any new legend ever, right? People will always have opinions about it's usually the weapons and the stats that people usually talk about. Obviously, some weird people like me tend to look more into the lore, the narrative ramifications of this character existing, and that kind of thing, or design and whatever.
Yeah, I'll look into the skins.
Yeah, but I think you kind of hit it there with I think the main reasons there's more talk on Brawlhalla Twitter about Thea is the fact that we all knew the new character is gonna have boots. we've generally seen that BMG has like 3 characters in a row with the new weapon. So we're in the
Every
second
time.
one, ever since Orb, as far as I can tell, or maybe Scythe, I'm not sure, or Cannon at least. Oh, I know it started with Cannon because I came into Brawlhalla around when Cannon was pretty new. But yeah, so we knew Boots was there, but the fact that his Boots Lance was one thing, and people had their opinions about Lance. I love Lance. Like I've been a Scarlet main for a long time. I think Lance is a lot of fun, but it is a bit polarizing. So Boots Lance is an unusual combination, and also the fact that like, I think there's just more uproar whenever Zol has 9 strength, Magyar has 9 defense. Dol has full strength, Magyar has full defense, and now we have a full speed one, which people take notice on. And the fact that it's high speed Lance is, I think, what got a lot of people talking. Definitely. Some of those signatures also look incredibly fast. I will admit, unfortunately, just because I've had a lot going on Wednesday night and Thursday night, and also tonight, I have not gotten the chance to play Thea yet.
I've played quite a lot of Thea.
I plan to play a lot of Thea this weekend, definitely, because she looks really cool. But yeah, there's kind of like the I've talked in a video, like in my Thea lore analysis video, about how some of the SIGs look like they're from Olympic sports. Like her Lance End SIG is my favorite because it's literally the javelin throw. Like that's the form that you go through and everything for that.
Yeah, even a lot of her like the boot signatures, specifically the N sig and not the N sig, the side sig and the D sig. They all have like these startups that you would see for like Olympic sprinters. For like they're either like there's a certain meter dash and things like that. There's a lot of Olympic sport representation with her signatures.
Yeah, which I personally like that a lot. Like, and the fact that the Olympics are mentioned in her lore as well. But yeah, I look forward to seeing how well I'm able to. I think I can't remember. I can't remember when I got my new like Elo Pink peak of 1568. That's 1568. I think it might have been with Tezca. I can't remember though. So maybe, hopefully, I can get to 1600 with Thea. One can only hope, maybe.
With your Lance experience, it should help you.
I'd like to think so. I do, yeah. I feel fairly comfortable, at least on the gold level, with Lance. And I enjoy Boots as well. So, yeah, that should be a lot of fun. It's kind of funny. I actually played Chell more than I played Tezca. And mainly it's for the same reason I play Hugin more than Moonin.
It's the same for me as well, actually. I played strictly only Hugin.
It is because the whole lore thing, right? Because obviously both siblings are always in the lore, but it's like they get less appreciation because like
they're not the main.
They're not the main one. They're not the one that you bought. They're not the one that you purchase with gold, or the All Legends pack. You have to spend 140 mammoth coins to get the other sibling. But yeah, I imagine that the I don't think there's so much drama per se, but like uproar around Thea would definitely be a lot more if BMG were not careful in making sure it was clear Thea is not competitively viable until she's gone through a balance patch. So spring champion, spring champs, and like spring royale coming up, and that's nothing to worry about there for now anyway.
Yeah, they've always been relatively really good with that,
which I'm grateful for. I usually don't care as much about like the specifics of esports, but for those who do care, I'm grateful for on their behalf for them about that. What are your favorite things about Thea, either playing her or any aspect of the character?
Personally, her lore has been really fun for me. Like the animation that they released of her versing Thor in the stadium.
So epic.
Yeah, like they've had animated like legend releases before, but it's just there just feels like such a stark difference in level for Thea in the animation.
Yeah.
And I also like the fact that like Thor is such a great character to show like the scale of her ability
Mm-hmm.
for a combat animation like that, but it was also nice to just see like it wasn't all just about Thea. They also like gave some love to another legend that I don't think many people really look into, because Thor was what now about
It's been a while. I think Thor might have been.
he
I
was
think Thor's kind of
like
been taken.
12. He's around 12 legends away from
That's
Thea's
crazy.
current
Some of these
release.
legends still feel new to me. Like Jaeon still feels a little bit new to me, but it's
Yeah.
been a while. It has been a while. I think some people have like maybe taken Thor for granted a little bit over the past year or so, um,
Yeah.
because like it's just kind of you kind of expect Thor to be there in Valhalla, and like it's hype that he's like a playable character, but it's not like um, Thor is just kind of this. You just see representation of Thor all over the place. This is the Brawlhalla version.
Yeah, it's not a original like a character that stems from
Yeah,
originality, like where you would look at like Mako or Asuri or like Lord Vrax,
yeah,
characters like that. It's just kind of like, oh,
yeah,
obviously if they're talking about if there's a game full of gods and other things, you would expect Thor to be there.
yeah. But I do agree. I think Thor was a fantastic choice of someone that Thea could go against. Thor kind of representing Valhalla, and Thea kind of representing the best of the best of the Greek pantheon, um,
Yeah.
as well. I also, in speaking of animations, which I agree. I feel like every single animation BMG makes in general, legend or otherwise, it always feels like a step up from the last one.
Yeah, it's
I don't know how that keeps happening, but like the Tezca one was very hyped to me.
yeah.
Maybe part of that was like the music and like the lore of Olgrim coming into it and stuff like that. But yeah, this one once again felt elevated and just felt really epic. One thing I did want to, I hope to, maybe I'll tweet about this. Probably not tomorrow on April Fool's Day, but sometime in the future as a reminder. So sometimes Odling, the art director at BMG, makes Instagram posts that kind of show these sketches of like the animation model for Brawlhalla Legends, kind of
Yes.
translating the characters in the game to kind of more realistic proportions for the animation. So he showed one of Thea, and he also showed one of Thor a while back. And so usually when they usually don't make these kinds of sketches unless they need to for an animation. So when we saw that there was one for Thor, we're like, oh, Thor's going to appear in an animation soon, and he appeared in Thea. But you may remember that Odling also around the same time he made a post about Thor, he made a post about Zariel as well, and we haven't seen Zariel yet in
Yeah.
animation.
That
So
raised some questions for me too, because when I noticed that people were putting those things together, or at least have already put those things together, but I managed to stumble upon them, I was actually wondering exactly what Zariel may be used for an upcoming animation.
yeah, so and people were so because the Thor and Zariel post came out at about the same time on Oddling's Instagram page, people speculated that because Zariel is sometimes paired with Thor in some like in some like gameplay trailers or whatever, because Zariel is the representative of Elysium, right? This kind of like celestial, kind of inspired by biblical celestial kind of
Yeah.
afterlife, and Thor is like the representative of the Norse pantheon of Valhalla. And Zariel is a visitor from Elysium to Valhalla to kind of observe Odin's army, essentially, to kind of like get a measure of their worth, of their power, to kind of see what's going on there. And so so it made sense to kind of pair. I wonder if that was intentional. If Odling was being a bit sneaky there, because we thought that we would see Thor and Zariel. At least I did, in one animation. And then when they showed the first like few seconds of the trailer for Thea, I knew that wasn't the whole thing, because usually they show a more full one when the legend is released. So I'm like, maybe Zariel will
Yeah.
appear later, but Zariel didn't. They didn't at all. So something else is coming up. I mean, something's always coming up. Obviously, we know that. We just know that Zariel somehow shows up in probably the next animation or the animation after that.
Something's always coming up.
Yeah, so I'm very interested. It could be for a crossover thing. I don't know. It's been a while since we've had a crossover, so that's possible. Um,
And I believe Zariel doesn't actually have one whatsoever.
Yeah, Zariel does not have a crossover, as far as I understand. So,
Yes,
uh,
only an epic skin. Or
yeah,
not an epic skin, a chest skin, that is.
yeah. I mean, we haven't really had a Zariel just has a chest skin for like the celestial chest, I believe, um, or something like that.
Yeah, it is for the Celestial chest, and then they also have a Battle Pass skin for the debut of Battle Pass 1.
That's right. Yeah, the yokai one. Um, yeah, Zariel's kind of been a bit under the radar there, unless you're Jade Wares. But in general, Zariel has been a bit under the radar there, so I'm interested to see what happens with that. Um, yeah, I cool. I'm not sure if there's especially since I haven't played Thea yet. I don't have a lot more to say about um, all that, except I'm excited to finally play the game play the game this weekend. Uh,
I think
and check
she's,
Thea out.
yeah, I think she's a ton of fun once you perhaps maybe not for so much for the elo grinders,
Hmm?
just because they have
Yeah,
to adapt to the speed.
right.
But I think it's introduced a lot more fun into the game just because of kind of how wacky she is, and then also with the new boomerang gadget.
Oh my
There's just a
gosh, I forgot
lot.
about that. There's the
Yeah,
boomerang gadget. Oh man,
there's
that's
just
exciting. Yeah.
it's a lot of refreshness.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot of refreshness to Brawlhalla, which I think was kind of needed. There's always been like you can always find some level of fun in something in Brawlhalla, but for the people that pretty much only find enjoyment in playing, I think it's something to just get people's mind working.
Yeah, indeed, and that is a good point. Like I always find something fun in Brawlhalla, but I also recognize that, at least with me, because I don't spend a lot of time. I compared to other people who are active in the Brawlhalla community, I don't play Brawlhalla as much as as some other people do, and so I can kind of see how if 1 or 2 or 3 months go by without anything big like this happening, then that can feel stagnant to them.
Yeah, especially for like people who made specific weapons, just like in the fact that Lance mains haven't had an actual new Lance legend
Since Vector, yeah.
since Vector.
And people have been incredibly underwhelmed with Vector. I'm interested to see if the Sig reworks for Vector do much for the play rate. Um, but yeah, uh, Thea does look like a very fun, zany character, and I only got that, and that's what I get from her trailer and the devs talking about her and her lore, right? Not even from
Yeah.
playing her, I already have a sense of like how she feels to play, which is just fantastic, just overall overarching design for a character. Usually, when we say character design, we're talking about like the way they look, but I think you can also say character design in like the look, the feel, the way they play, the how they fit into the bigger picture of the game and the bigger picture of the world. There's a lot that goes into that, and um, there's definitely a cohesive vision there with Thea, which I really appreciate. Yeah,
Yeah, honestly, when it comes to hype for a new legend, I think they knocked it out of the park.
absolutely. Which I
Like
mean, I'm
hate aside, I just think that this is the type of hype and theatrics you want with a new legend, even down to if
theatrics. Yeah,
signatures even down if signatures seem broken or characters not fair. It's fun. We know it'll be nerfed. We know it'll be in
yeah.
the
Things will be
past. It'll be
balanced a bit
something people
more
will
and
look on.
whatever.
Yeah,
We're gonna have our fun,
but this
in
is what
time.
you want. You don't want a new you don't want a new legend to come out and nobody plays it.
Yeah, you want engagement, right? Yeah, like
Yeah.
this is exactly like, again, hate, any hate or like complaining aside, this is good. People who love Brawlhalla are definitely talking a lot more about it. Um, and yeah, that engagement, and it's kind of, I mean, I'm always hyped about any character. I've never been disappointed in a character before. Um,
Oh, for sure.
which, I mean, maybe that's also just because I tend to kind of be more of a glass half full kind of person anyway when it comes to Brawlhalla, for better or for worse, I suppose. Um, and I recognize that, right? But I do agree. Like this is one like there are varying levels of hype sometimes. I don't feel like hype around Vector was as, like, for example, or hype around like Thor was as high as hype around Thea, for example.
Yeah. Yeah, I wouldn't put them in the same category versus like hype for Ezio. and Tezca and Arcadia. I think
Right.
like those
Yeah, I think
those
people were very
releases were
excited about
through
our.
the roof. Yeah, they were through
Yeah,
the roof.
and it may also be because like, oh yeah, Arcadia hype was pretty high. I think
Hmm.
and BMG allowed the hype to stew for a bit. It's like Arcadia is a good example of that. They teased a little bit of of like the first couple seconds of her trailer of showing this fairy woman having a crown put on her head and stuff, and it's clearly the Feywild, and that just like got people excited, and that just kind of fed into.
Yeah,
And then I think like with the whole and then with Thea, the Eternal Sports thing and the core tune helped feed into that. I think.
yeah. The little Avatar release prior before that too also had a bunch of people speculating and
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah,
just generating ideas. It was smart. I liked it a lot.
yeah, fantastic. Yeah, they do a great job. Yeah, they've been doing a great job with that. I hope they continue to knock it out of the park with whatever the next Boots legend will be. Um,
Boots
so
Orb.
Boots Orb. Honestly, I love Orb as well. I would like it to be Boots Orb. Okay. So well, I will also say
I
even
don't
though
know if we'll get that because of Reno, of how recent
who
it died,
knows,
and Ezio.
yeah, but I mean, yeah, and I mean, I definitely, like I said, I was not disappointed by Thea. I guess the only disappointment I ever had was that I guess I kind of overhyped myself thinking it was Hypernia instead of Thea,
Yeah,
and I might have fed into the hype for other people too, um, so I need to be a bit more careful about that. But I think we got over it. I think I and the other Hypernia stands, got over it pretty quickly, and latched on to Thea. But anyway, um, cool. Well, um, speaking of hype, another thing we wanted to. It seems like both of us are also really excited for the next Zelda game, Tears of the Kingdom, because that was something that you wanted to talk about, and I definitely want to talk about my thoughts about that as well. Um,
yeah. It's I kind of suspected that we would be getting some sort of new Zelda game when they were talking, like just like every time, like because most of the Nintendo releases come out around the same time of year every year. I Since there wasn't anything specific from last year's, I believe, when the trailer from this one came out, I
right, yeah,
was
because we've been waiting for a while for this one.
yeah, because
Yeah,
everyone was yeah, since Breath of the Wild came out, well, most people were thinking like, oh, Breath of the Wild 2, it's
it's
easy. That's totally
inevitable.
going to be the next game. Yeah. But
So I
I
guess,
think with
yeah.
this one, they kind of broke ankles a little bit,
What do you
even
mean
though
by
it
that?
kind of like just in the sense of like one the name, it not actually being called Breath of the Wild 2.
Oh.
And and second, just kind of a lot of the things that they showed in the trailer, like the from what I saw, I believe the magic system.
Oh
I
yeah,
forgot if
the you can call it the crafting system, the fuse
yeah.
system, whatever it is. Um, so yeah, I mean, I'm if I weren't as deep as I am in Brawlhalla lore, I'd definitely probably be making like Zelda lore videos or something. Um, I love like Legend of Zelda has been one of my favorite series like since I started playing video games, and so any new Zelda game at all, I pay attention. In fact, I even in my bookshelf over here, I have like the Hyrule Historia and like the the encyclopedia kind of stuff or whatever. Um, but yeah, so what do you think about the so about that fuse crafting system, whatever? What do you think about that?
From a lot of games that I used to play that I would get heavily involved in, like would always come down to either A, does it have a bunch of weapons to collect or interesting looking ones you want to add to your arsenal, or is there a like significantly fun type of crafting system?
Do you think
That's
this will
always
be a
been
fun crafting system?
I think it'll be more enjoyable than I had with Breath of the Wild.
Really wasn't anything with crafting in Breath of the Wild except cooking. Which I mean,
Yeah.
you know
It's like
cooking, right?
I crave it's like when I saw what they did with that, I kind of craved more, and I thought that they could do more.
Hmm. I did see some people talk about that, and how they were disappointed that they don't have as much to do with the materials that they keep gathering in Breath of the Wild. Like
Yeah,
you can make elixirs and stuff with like monster parts and whatever, but you don't really use elixirs that much usually. Um, and so it felt like a tacked on kind of thing. But now here, there's actually going to be a use for Keese eyeballs and ice and choo choo jelly and all of that, which I'm pretty happy about.
yeah. I'm more so want to get my hands on it and look at it more. But it's just like I remember upon the day of the release, just like all the memes that I saw just about the crafting system, and it was just like
When it was
people with
first
like
revealed, yeah.
a shark tied to a stick saying like me on my way to feed Ganon.
Yeah, I saw an artist somewhere, an artist on Twitter shared something where like Link had a stick attached to a rock with like two sticks attached to a pitchfork, and it was like this many pronged abomination
Yeah.
thing, which was great. Um, yeah, like I think probably the main takeaway I took from that gameplay trailer, like earlier this week, was just the possibilities, man. Like
Yeah.
they really tried to, like, I think that was what Eiji Aonuma was trying to like hit home here, like to show the basics of what you can do, and then you're like, oh wait, you can do this with anything.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if there would be a use for like sticking a long stick to a shield or something, but it seems like you can do that for whatever reason.
It's
Um,
one of those things where like the devs are like, "Here's something we've made," and then they just kind of wait to see what people decide
yep.
to do with it and be amazed by people's imagination.
Yeah. One thing I think is kind of interesting about the conversation around. I've been following a little bit of the conversation around the gameplay trailer and people's reactions to Tears of the Kingdom. And apparently, there's a bit more. I mean, obviously, a lot of people are excited about it, but there's also a little more like the conversation is a bit more polarizing than I thought it would be. Um, like there's like various expectations and stuff, like whether hoping for dungeons and stuff like that, or like
Yeah.
and like we don't or like people kind of believing that the gameplay trailer showed that not a whole lot happened to the mainland Hyrule. It's just a bunch of stuff added to what we already had, which we're not
Yeah.
100% sure if that's the case either. I'd like to believe there's a lot more changes than just islands.
Yeah,
um,
from what they showed to us so far.
Yeah. But one interesting thing, so I came across a video that talked about how the video had a bit of a clickbaity title, saying things like, developers, um, this is why developers are scared of or are angry about Tears of the Kingdom and stuff. And this person was talking about how video game developers and other companies outside of Nintendo have been looking at the gameplay trailer and being like either quote unquote scared or quote unquote upset because they say and saying like Nintendo's making the rest of us game devs look bad in the sense that they're impressed by what they see. The kind of like it's more of this just how incredibly versatile and flexible the physics and the systems of the games are. The the things that can be the freedom that's afforded to the player and the things that can be manipulated by the player,
Yeah.
essentially. And I would not be at all surprised if a good chunk of the development was perfecting that system, because that system looks as smooth, as intuitive as all get out. And
Yeah, I would agree with you.
I mean, as far as I can tell, and um, even if it seems like weird to put a boulder on a stick, it seems like it's just touch of a button, and you just here have a makeshift hammer or a makeshift fan or a longer or a very long spear or something. Um, but yeah, as excited as I am about the gameplay stuff, and so anyway, it's just the kind of that thing about how like game developers looking at this and just like, wow, how did Nintendo do this? Like, there's just like the I think I
On
think I
on
think
a Switch, no less.
oh, on the Switch is true. I keep forgetting about that because so I've never had a PlayStation. I've never had an Xbox. I've always had Nintendo consoles and also, of course, PCs. And
Yeah.
so, while I do recognize, like, obviously I know, PCs have graphics cards and whatever, and I've been able to play stuff like No Man's Sky on my PC. Uh, I've never cared that much about graphics, so I kind of take for granted sometimes that whole thing about, like, games running on the Switch. I'm less sensitive to that sort of thing, and so I just
Yeah.
kind of forget that that's something that other people, care about. Um, yeah, that's true. There didn't seem to be any loading screen or anything when you went from the islands to the ground or vice versa. And so, yeah,
The main issues I saw on Twitter came from people actually talking about like how things look in Tears of Kingdom, and even before Tears of Kingdom, even in Breath of the Wild, compared to like Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. Just like when you're in the overworld, just like the type of graphics and how in some specific areas the frame rate can just get abysmal. A
hmm,
lot of people were wondering, it's just like, is the money difference between Pokemon and Zelda that much different to where you can have like Tears of Kingdom look like this and have things operate and
beautiful
look
and
so,
great.
yeah, just look so clean versus where,
What we see with Pokemon, yeah, it's so weird to me, honestly.
yeah, it's
Like
it's confusing.
I enjoyed Pokemon Shield for what it was, definitely. Like I
Hmm.
didn't have a problem with it. I enjoyed it for what it was. And then we also got Pokemon Violet, and we enjoyed that as well. Um,
I
we
still had
bought
fun. I always have fun in a Pokemon game,
Yeah,
regardless of the
exactly.
graphic. But
Um, and so it's kind of always baffled me that like Legend of Zelda can be like so grand and like just even the seemingly lower points of the franchise, like Skyward Sword is more polarizing, for example, but even that is considered a very good polished game.
yeah,
But yeah, with Pokemon, it's just I don't know. Maybe I wonder if part of me is wondering is it because Pokemon is more in the camp of if it's Pokemon, people will buy it. But at the same time, that's kind of where Zelda is too, right? Maybe not too as strong and maybe not as much as Pokemon, obviously, but like um, I I don't know. There's clearly some differences in direction and approach with the two franchises or
yeah.
something. Um, the only really awful graphic thing that me and my wife noticed with Pokemon Violet, because we bought it like a month or so or weeks after the first day, so we didn't get any of the like first week or first day glitches or whatever. But just how choppy NPCs were and stuff,
Hmm.
even when you were right next to them, I'm just like, why? Why is this a thing? Uh, um,
You would assume after all this time,
I don't know, man.
especially with like the help of like, because like you have the people clearly that knew how to work on Breath of the Wild, and I believe Tears of
They have
Kingdom's
wandering
been,
NPCs in Breath of the Wild. Like that's
yeah, what was it, Tears of the Kingdom. It was the development started in 2017.
yeah, yeah,
So like obviously you would have people you could ask for help or get information or knowledge from.
yeah. And I mean, part of it could be the shorter development cycle for Pokemon.
Yeah,
Some
that
people
too.
like with that actually could be a big thing too. Just like Nintendo takes their sweet time with Zelda games usually, and with Majora's Mask being like the one exception I can think of. And but with Pokemon because it's uh, because they plan all their products around a very like a more strict schedule, I guess. They just I guess
That's true. There is like
their video games
there's
just
a
feel
new
more
release.
rushed. Essentially,
Yeah,
is
there's
what
a
I get
new
out of it.
release and a remake every year at least.
Yeah, to coincide with the next set of like Pokemon cards and like um, events and promotions and products and anime and whatever, right? Because anytime we go into a new generation, we go into that new generation in games
Like,
and Pokemon
yeah,
cards and the anime and who the heck knows what else
of
they do.
everything that has to do with Pokemon. Yeah.
Yeah. So I usually kind of lay the blame on that for Pokemon, um, which really sucks because I play the video games more than anything. I do still collect the Pokemon cards though. Like I still have all my vintage Pokemon cards, and I occasionally buy more modern booster packs for fun. But I mostly engage with the video games these days. Uh, but yeah, I was nervous about watching the gameplay trailer because I wasn't sure if they would how much they would reveal. I'm glad I watched it though. Like it made me more hyped for it. I was worried about
Yeah.
like that they would share more about what's going on with the story, which they didn't. They didn't say anything about it because I'm just like I'm incredibly intrigued by whatever story thing is planned for this. Um, and I found a really great theory on YouTube about what the story of Tears of the Kingdom might be. You may or may not have seen this as well, but so people were pointing out when the title and when the title and logo were revealed, Tears of the Kingdom. People were kind of thinking, well, Nintendo didn't want to reveal the title earlier because they said it was a spoiler. But what does Tears of the Kingdom spoil? Well, some people, some Zelda lore masters out there, believe that the real spoiler was the kind of double Ouroboros symbol in the back behind the title,
Yeah.
and that I mean obviously the designs of that double Ouroboros are like this Zonai culture that apparently is going to be at the forefront of this game, which I'm very excited about because we haven't really seen much with that. But it's this idea that like so we have Sky Islands. There's like the murals that we see in some of the other trailers show like what we assume to be Hylia and Princess Zelda, and how we know that Breath of the Wild is basically the merging of the three Zelda timelines in one somehow. We just accept it at this point, which I'm fine with. Whatever. We've seen weirder things in fantasy, um, but or maybe similarly weird things in fantasy. But yeah, that Tears of the Kingdom. The fan theory is that it's basically the end of Tears of the Kingdom is the beginning of Skyward Sword, bringing everything all back around, and that's why we have this double Ouroboros thing where it's like the beginning of one is the end of the other, and the end of one is the beginning of the other. Which, if that's true, because I've been getting a lot of Skyward Sword vibes from this with the diving from the Sky Islands and everything. I really want that to be true. Also, the lore of Skyward Sword, like the opening cinematic, talks about like this big war that happened like on the Earth or on the planet or whatever, and that Hylia and that the humans prayed to Hylia for protection and
Oh yeah, the ancient battle.
yeah the ancient battle, and Hylia like sent all the humans up on islands, and Hylia and the rest of the like creatures and species on the planet on the surface were left to fight the battle essentially. And so you know, and there seems like there could be some parallels with what was going on with Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom, and Skyward Sword. I hope that's true, but I also recognize that there are a lot of Zelda fan theories that have turned out to not be true. So I also don't want to have my hopes too high. But that would be really cool, if possible. And there definitely is very much a theme of like there's a rebirth theme in all the Zelda games, right? We have Link, Zelda, and Ganon all the time reappearing. So. May 12th cannot come fast enough, let me tell you.
We'll see what happens when it happens.
I'm sure I will enjoy the game no matter what. Like it's pretty hard. I'm pretty easily pleased. I'm pretty easy to please, especially with stuff like Zelda and whatever.
The nostalgia factor.
Honestly, and also just engaging with the series in general.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I will say another game. This is not necessarily on our notes, but I wanted to mention another game that I'm very excited for that's coming out sooner, and that's Advance Wars 1 and 2 Reboot Camp. I'm not sure, so I probably won't talk too much about this one because I'm not sure how interested you'd be in this one. But so as a kid, as a teenager, I had a Game Boy Color first, and then a Game Boy Advance. And one of my favorite games on Game Boy Advance was Advance Wars 2. I love the strategy and everything, the fun like toy tank kind of thing. And so seeing that game was that was finally getting like a reboot after so long, that's coming out on April 20th, so less than a month. So that will hopefully tide me over until Tears of the Kingdom finally comes along. So
yeah, I never played these when I had my Game Boy Advance.
So
but I did see these during the direct though.
Yeah. So it's not something that you were ever that excited about because you don't have much of a connection with it.
Yeah, because I think during the time that I had my Advance, from there I moved to the SP, but the first games I ever played on the Advance and the SP were all Pokemon games.
Yeah. Do you have a so what were your favorite games from that time?
I had a lot of fun with Pokemon Crystal.
All right.
And from there, that led me into Pokemon Ruby. And I think
backwards.
Ruby is...
Right? Crystal
I think that's kind of what solidified my enjoyment in Pokemon, because from that point on, I was kind of like hooked, and I was trying to play every new game that released from there, and did so.
It's always so fascinating to me what people's path is through the Pokemon franchise. Sometimes I feel like an anomaly, and hearing you say this, I feel less like an anomaly now. I was in Pokemon in like the first wave in like the late '90s, early 2000s. Like, and that's why I have so many vintage Pokemon cards, like from the base Jungle and Fossil sets and Team Rocket and all that. But also, I had Pokemon Red and Blue and Yellow for the Game Boy. And then around 2000, 2002, whatever, Johto, Gen 2, and like after seeing the first Pokemon movie with Mewtwo and Mew, which was so hype, and also seeing the second Pokemon movie with Lugia and the Legendary Birds, I lost interest in Pokemon after that, so I never really got into Gold and Silver or Ruby and Sapphire or anything from Gen 2 to Gen 7. I never really got interested in it. And then 2016, when Pokemon Go came out, I started engaging more with Pokemon again because Pokemon Go started out only with Gen 1 Pokemon that I was excited about.
Yeah, so it was easy for you to
It was easy for me to get into it. And then like I kind of got into Pokemon a little bit more because I had some friends on Discord who wanted to do a Pokemon TTRPG campaign, and so I created an entirely original like region with gym leaders and gym challenges that were original and things like that.
I'm jealous I missed that.
This was back in like 2018, 2019, something like that. It was like a year and a half. So I wasn't really that well known as Serendipitous at the time. I still do have all my notes though, so if you ever wanted to look at it, I'm willing to share. But I just had I made like it was the dungeon master in me from Dungeons and Dragons just made an entirely unique like thing that was based on like gothic horror mystery kind of thing, and like the gym challenges and the Elite Four and all that were these weird like challenges I made and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, so that got me, and the people the players, there were about 4 or 5 players, they were more into like Gen 4 and Gen 5, and so I was using more of those Pokemon. I didn't make any original Pokemon. It was just the region and the NPCs and the gym leaders and the gym challenges. That's the stuff I made, and like the plots and whatever. But I didn't make any new Pokemon. The lore, yeah. I did not make any new Pokemon because goodness gracious, that would be a lot.
That's a lot of effort.
Exactly. It was a lot of effort just to run that game too, because the fan made TTRPG system is just kind of it's very cumbersome on the Game Master. But it was fun, and everyone loved it, and I was able to use it, incorporate everyone's favorite Pokemon into it. And then that kind of like, kept piquing my, so Pokemon kept piquing my interest and then Sword and Shield came out, and then I got that, and I kind of got. Now I'm basically Gen 1, Gen 8, Gen 9. That's pretty much where I'm at. And everything in between, I'm just like, I feel like I'm just kind of catching up, but I'm just paying more attention to just the ones I'm more familiar with. But it sounds like you started with, what was Pokemon Crystal? Was that Gen 3 or something?
So Pokemon Crystal was that was the one with Suicune as the cover. I believe that is.
Oh, is that Gen 2 then?
I believe, yeah, Pokemon, yeah, because
Oh,
it goes.
okay. I forgot.
It goes
that's right.
yellow, red, blue, green, then Crystal. What was the other one?
Gold, Silver, and Crystal, and then Ruby and Sapphire and Emerald.
Crystal.
For some reason, I thought Crystal was with Ruby and Sapphire, but no, it was Gold, Silver, Crystal, and then from Crystal you went forward to Ruby. Okay, I was wrong.
I went from Crystal to Ruby, and then I backtracked to Pokemon Red.
Ah, okay.
Because I realized that I could still play the game on my current console. It's just that when I had gotten my first, I got the Game Boy Color first, and the first thing that it came with was Pokemon Crystal, because it was the like the see-through Game Boy Color.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, like the more advanced Game Boy Color before the Game Boy Advance.
So that's what I started, and I had fun with it. That was like my first experience ever with like a turn-based RPG game.
Nice.
And from there, then I played some after I beat Pokemon Crystal and then played Ruby and went back to Red. That's when I started experimenting with like the Legend of Zelda games and the Dragon Ball Z Game Boy games. But I never had as much fun with them as I did with Pokemon, because just the designs of some of the creatures would always just like stick with me. And as I kept up like watching it, every time I saw a new one come out, there'd always be something that I was just like, I need to have it.
Yeah.
But then after all of my random start point, progress point, backtrack, then from there I played all the games in order.
Yeah, I don't think I have a desire to play all the games in order. There's enough games already, but that's so okay. So yeah, maybe that's cool. You kind of like went around all over the place until you finally
Didn't start the way you should, but I consumed all the content.
Nice. Yeah, me and my wife are actually watching the first season of Pokemon anime on Netflix right now, the Indigo League and all that, because I watched a lot of those. And that was like, my wife had seen like a few things, but she had not watched nearly as much as I had. So a lot of it was more new for her, and like we're both loving it. All the like just how all the shenanigans that happen in like the very first Pokemon anime episodes is just fantastic. Ash. So we're at the point where Ash just beat Sabrina, so he has 4 badges, and he's moving on to Celadon City, which is a bit out of order from Pokemon Red, oddly enough, but. Whatever. So yeah, that's been really good.
I think I watched the series for a pretty long time. I'm pretty sure the last place I stopped watching the series probably when I started high school.
Yeah, it was around when I started high school. That I stopped like watching the series and stopped catching up on Pokemon stuff. So
it was probably, yeah, I think it was the Diamond and Pearl era of the series.
So that's like, what is that?
That's
Gen
worth. That's
4?
Yes, I think that's Gen 4. So that's Piplup, Turtwig, and Chimchar.
Okay, Ruby, Sapphire, Diamond, Pearl. That's right. The ones that get mixed up. So I remember like Red and Blue, Gold and Silver, Ruby, Sapphire, Diamond, Pearl. And I keep forgetting whether X and Y or Black and White was next. I get those two mixed up.
Yeah, it's Black and White, then X and Y.
X and Y, and then Sun and Moon, right?
Sun and Moon, Sword and Shield, and then Scarlet and Violet.
Got it. Yep. My wife has also been getting
Black and
more
White is great.
That's what I keep hearing. I keep hearing like that. Sorry, that's Gen 5, right?
Yeah, that's Gen 5.
That seems to be a lot of people. At least people I see on Twitter. That seems to be a lot of their favorite generations.
It had good story. It, like most of the time, Pokemon story format follows like the same premise.
Right,
Like there's
yeah.
always some type of villain. You defeat the villain, you capture the legendary. But Black and White kind of went a little bit more deeper into like character identities, and
Yeah.
there wasn't just like there was obviously one main threat to combat, but there was more to it than what it led on as a normal Pokemon game.
Yeah. Me and my wife have actually also been kind of engaging more with with Gen 4 Diamond and Pearl a little bit because my wife wanted Pokemon Legend Arceus, and so she was the one who played through that, which is the Hisuian region is basically the Diamond Pearl region, but ancient times, right? I'm pretty sure because the time and space Pokemon feature in Pokemon Legends Arceus. And then later on, when my wife found out there was a remake of Pokemon Diamond and Pearl, she's playing. Oh gosh, I think Pokemon. Is it Pokemon Diamond? I think she's playing now. The remake of Pokemon Diamond, the one with the chibi and everything.
Oh yeah, Brilliant Diamond.
Brilliant Diamond, yeah. Or is it? I can't remember which. It's the one that has Vulpix in it. I know that because that was the deciding factor for her on which one.
Yeah, they always make you choose.
Yeah, exactly. Like her favorite Pokemon are Eevee and Vulpix, and so the one that has Vulpix in it is the one she decided to get. So I've been getting a bit more in the loop of Gen 4 at the very least because of Arceus and Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. She also got Pokemon Let's Go Eevee, so figures.
Yeah. I think Gen 4 is good, especially for like people who like the older generation mons, because there are like a good amount of new mons introduced in Gen 4, but there's not as many, I think, as you see in other games.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Cool. But yeah. Let's see. What next? Other things we wanted to. So yeah, we've been talking. Yeah, we've been talking a lot about like some of our favorite games that led us down to this path to be the hardcore gamers we are today. Let's see. Let's also just kind of like other things that we've just sort of noticed in like other excitements in gaming or like achievements we've seen in like the Brawlhalla community or the communities we like or things like that. I'm opening Twitter now to kind of remind myself, although I'm gonna have a lot of notifications because of what I'm doing. So yeah, again for those watching,
This is a big achievement in the community in my eyes personally.
Sorry, what exactly?
This is the return of Bowen.
Bowen. Okay, yeah. So again, tonight being March 31st and tomorrow being April 1st, I'm doing the same thing on Twitter now that I did last year, which was introduce a alternative version of Baron named Bowen, who is just kind of this. He very much talks like, hi everyone, it's your boy Bowen here. Hey, Bowen here. I'm here to play to deliver some sick Brawlhalla content for you today. And I've basically been talking like that on Twitter. With this and it came from fan art that was made back in like 2020 of people making these cute little sketches of Baron saying things like
the doodles,
the little doodles and everything, and so that kind of created this character collectively. One of my favorite doodles is one where Bowen is saying, "I have committed unspeakable war crimes." That's actually the PFP that I have right now. You just don't see the text because it's I wanted to focus on the face, but that's what you see is the profile picture right now on Twitter.
You can see the line leading to like the text.
So right now that line is leading to like the banner on my Twitter banner that says "I am Bowen," but what the actual image says, the full one says, "I have committed unspeakable war crimes." And oh man, and also I have, and like I really hope this doesn't sound like I'm tooting my own horn here. I'm just like very proud of, like, so you and I and some of your mods in the Void in the Void Discord server had a huge laugh about what I said to one of Captain's replies to me.
It's peak.
It's peak. I was laughing about it. Like I was laughing at myself about it for like hours afterwards. Like I just think about it and just like break up laughing or something.
I don't remember it. Very, very well.
So some context for people here, and maybe I'm gonna try to see if I can try to find it. I'm pretty sure I bookmarked it. Yep, I bookmarked it. Okay. So and again, like this is a podcast, so I'm gonna describe it, but also because there's some people who are, this is it coming in video format as well, so I'm gonna try to have a, like, also show it on the screen as well. Doing some shenanigans here of like, okay, here we go. All right, so I'm showing this here. Cap Legend. So basically, I was saying. So usually I have my, what are you grateful for today tweets, right? But Bale Dippy is saying, gratitude is for dweebs. Show me the freshest cat memes you've ever seen. And so one of the cat memes was Captain Legend having this picture of a cat just staring very close to the camera, and it's like all black and white, and just like it looks like it's deep despair. Shadows. It's despair. It looks like the cat has seen things. Looks like the cat is not having a good day. And so I replied, "Whoa, these brownies ate." Oh, I don't know how I came up with that.
The bookmark. It's so good.
I bookmarked it just so I could remember it, because I don't know where that came from, but I was channeling my inner Bellin there, and for the record, like Supreme, you know this, I definitely I do not do any kind of drugs at all myself.
That's what makes it.
But yeah, I figured that's like part of the humor, that like
That's why it's amazing.
but like I know that these edibles ain't and all that kind of stuff.
It's perfect. And it's like you don't even have to do it to understand the joke.
and like in your Void server, like when people were talking about it, you had to explain what it meant to somebody, to one of your mods or whatever. Like, okay, so brownies, you can have things baked in them, and so when someone says they're edibles, and
had to break it down chemically.
Had to break it down chemically to them. So yeah, I don't really think, like, I have some other ideas for things I'm gonna do for like I actually have a couple of video ideas I'm gonna make tonight and tomorrow, because Brawlhalla is doing something kind of funny as well.
I was thinking I can screenshot a bunch of the ones that I see if you'd like me to see.
But like I'm gonna play the game this weekend, and I have a couple of ideas.
You'll get plenty.
I'm gonna make some sick Brawlhalla content for all of you as Bale Dippy here. I don't have enough time to make a PNG tuber of Balin, but but hopefully someday, like that's just but I do have that image of that PFP there, so I'm gonna at least do that. Man, people just next year, yeah. Hope we'll see what I can. I'll see what I can do. But anyway, yeah, April Fool's stuff and other, like, so I know some people may April Fool's may be kind of like a bit of a, some people may like it, some people may not, but I personally find a lot of fun with it. Like I really like April Fool's when it's just like, people just having fun and everything. My favorite aspect of April Fool's is the Rivals of Ether Direct, because that's just so brilliant that, like, literally no other, like, fighting game developer company would, or like video game developer company, except maybe Devolver Digital, I don't know. No other game dev company would actually make announcements on April, like legitimate announcements April 1st. But because Dan Fernacci is Dan Fernacci, he can just do that.
Built different.
Like he's just built different, like the tetherball, the Lovers of Ether, and all that. Like it's just great. It's just a tradition. I love that. And did you see what Sega did? What Sega announced earlier this evening?
Let me check. I had to type your name in the April Fool's way to pull up because I remember seeing you tweet it.
Yeah.
Yeah, the murder of Sonic the Hedgehog.
It looks like it's an actual like visual novel that they made. They basically pulled the Lovers of Ether and they put something on Steam that's free, and so you can like, yeah, the murder of Sonic, and I guess you're, which, man, talk about being aware of the memes.
Yeah.
With Sonic, like that's just so brilliant. I love Sega for that, honestly. But yeah, and then of course Brawlhalla is doing this hilarious thing with like making like all the legends like big heads essentially.
Bobblehead brawlers.
The bobblehead thing, and Defensive was kind of saying something along the lines of like, a visual glitch has crept up. We should have it fixed by in a couple days. But like someone showed me a screenshot of Jake the dog, and it's just his face, like his eyes and nose and mouth are just blown up basically on the small body. It's fantastic. I love it. So my first experience playing Thea is going to be that.
Yeah,
great, wonderful.
I'm actually was very happy that I tested out all of my drip loadouts in game before they implemented it.
Oh my gosh, yeah,
I went back to try something else.
Does it do that in the render tool?
It doesn't do it in the render tool, but I always test everything in game, so I go into training mode, look at it. So when I went into training mode I thought I could make like maybe a fifth one for fun, and when I went to look, it was just this massive head that takes up most of the character.
Yep.
It's just like, it's like we're gonna leave it at that. We'll come back to it.
We'll come back to this. Yep. Oh man, that's so good.
It definitely makes me want to play, though. I do definitely want to.
Yeah, exactly.
See exactly how ridiculous it looks when you're trying to win.
Yep. Play Scarlet because she's like one of the bigger brains. Like Scarlet and Sentinel are like some of the smarter legends. Brax would also work because he has such a huge ego, so you have a big head there.
I also really want to try Zalt because they made his head slightly bigger with like that character update.
Oh right, yeah. When they updated his design a little bit and stuff.
Yeah,
that's true. Thatch.
I'm curious to see if it's even bigger than.
Also Thatch because like his mouth takes up like half his face. So
yeah, and his hat's massive too.
Yeah, exactly. Also, I mean, Lucian's hat is also massive.
We have to try Big Hat Lucian.
Fate's hat is also going to be quite large. Like,
yeah.
So yeah, that's great. Yeah, hat wearers rejoice. Man.
I can pick Moonin and be the biggest bird.
The biggest bird. Oh my gosh! Yeah, have the bird sidekick from the Valhalla Quest Battle Pass, and Moonin or Hugin, and yeah. Oh my gosh, that's great. Cool. I think I might be winding down on topics here today. It's been about an hour. We don't necessarily have like a time constraint here with these, so for episodes in general, we're experimenting with this podcast. It might be one between 1 and 2 hours or something like that, but I think we've covered like any like the main things we wanted to talk about. I think we have.
Yeah. I think a lot of the other stuff we want to try for later ones, we would like to have more people. It's better to get more opinions.
Yeah, true, exactly. We hope to have more people in either GB staff or just people in GB, or like even other people in the communities we care about as well. Obviously, you and I are both in Brawlhalla. We're very much like in the Brawlhalla community, but Global Breakout in general is kind of reaching into other things like we're reaching into Valorant a bit and so forth. But yeah, lots of possibilities. So thank you very much, Supreme, for joining me on this very first episode of the Global Breakout Podcast. And it's been a lot of fun. It's been great.
Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, always great to chat with you. And thank you, all of you, for watching and or listening to this. We're aiming for something like a weekly series, hopefully. But we do hope to make, if nothing else, regular episodes, whether it be weekly or a few times a month, kind of a thing. Because we just like talking about things we like, and here in Global Breakout, we very much just believe in making and doing fun things together, and this is definitely one of those. So yeah, thank you very much, everyone, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Take care.
Bye-bye.